It's as close to time travel as we're gonna get. This Week in Music History with Marty Miller.
The deal is here, we go through the week in music history in less than 10 minutes. We're looking this time at the week of June 22nd until 26th. The week, the lunatic that took John Lennon's life, gets life in 1981.
Deranged or a kook or something like that.
Greg Allman trying to change his ways in 2010.
I was drinking about a quart of vodka every day of my life.
And in 2012, the ultimate piece of Elvis memorabilia could have been yours.
This is where Elvis Presley was first laid to rest in 1977.
Let's time travel.
This Week in Music History with Marty Miller.
God forgive me for saying this, because any 13-year-old will sound the same way when they sing. Annoying. In 1963, 13-year-old Stevie Wonder got into the US singles chart as Little Stevie Wonder, and with a song called Fingertips Part 1 and 2. The track featured a very young Marvin Gaye on drugs, and it was the first live non-studio recording to reach number 1 on the Billboard Pop Singles chart, i.e. a live performance going to number 1. As I say, I find this just annoying.
Yeah, just a little bit of soul. Yeah. Clap your hands just a little bit louder. Clap your hands just a little bit louder.
Back in 1981 this week, Mark Chapman pleaded guilty to the charge of murder of one John Lennon in 1980. He would be sentenced to 20 years to life in prison. He is still in there. The events of December 1980 went like this.
Got out of the limousine to their apartment at the Dakota, where they were shot by a man who has been described, as you have said, by the police as deranged or a kook or something like that. Immediately, John Lennon was brought right here to Roosevelt Hospital. This is only about 13 blocks away from his apartment.
1966 this week, the Beatles had their 10th consecutive UK number 1 with Paperback Writer. Now, this track sounded different to other Beatles tracks or previous tracks because the basted boost guitar sound throughout was down to John Lennon demanding why the bass on certain Wilson Pickett records and records that came out of the States were far more prominent and important sounding than the bass on previous Beatles records. And when you know because you can really hear it here. In 1990, Elton John was a very happy bunny, finally landing number 1 in the UK charts. This was his first UK solo single. Remember, he'd been on the go for decades and never got to number 1 by himself. He did get there with Kiki D in the 70s. It was with this track. That's quite enough of that, thank you. 2010, 62 years of age at the time, Greg Allman underwent liver transplant operation in Florida. Allman said, "I changed my ways years ago, but we can't turn back time. Every day is a gift." The gift lasted another 7 years. Greg Allman of the Allman Brothers would be dead by 2017.
I went through a long period of my life of drinking. Serious drinking. I was drinking about a quart of vodka every day of my life. And if I didn't, I would get the delirium tremors, the DTs, and you'd have bugs crawling all over you, and it's some diabolical stuff to some people.
In 1999 this week, Eric Clapton put 100 of his guitars up for auction at Christie's in New York City to help raise money for his drug rehab clinic, the Crossroads Centre in Antigua. 5 million quid in 1999 raised.
How can I justify hanging on to all this stuff? I'm not really, a curator of a museum. These things aren't on show. They're not for. I wasn't sharing them. They were just locked up. I had a problem with the fact that I couldn't play them all, and they were just gathering dust in a warehouse. So my initial reaction was What a great, really relief, and what a great idea.
In 2012, this week, the crypt in which Elvis Presley was first buried in was withdrawn from a Los Angeles auction after protests that it should be kept as a shrine. Again, television reports at the time sounded like this.
Die-hard Elvis fans can now bid on the King's Crypt. This is where Elvis Presley was first laid to rest in 1977 before his body was buried at Graceland. And now it could be yours.
1967, 200 million people around the world saw the Beatles perform All You Need Is Love live via satellite. This was the first TV global link-up ever by satellite. Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, Eric Clapton, Graham Nash and Keith Moon providing backing vocals on this television performance.
And tonight, for the first time, we can see right round our world from sunset to dawn by television. Our world is circled by television. Television stations in 14 countries all around the world have joined up to make one program.
This week in 2009, Michael Jackson died at the age of 50. Heart failure at his home. CNN reported at the time.
Sad news, Jim Moret, and to all of our viewers, both the Los Angeles Times and CBS News are both now reporting that Michael Jackson has died. Now, CNN has not confirmed that, but the LA Times and CBS News are reporting that Michael Jackson, 50 years old, the king of pop, has died.
And in 1977, Elvis Presley made his last ever live stage appearance when he appeared at the Market Square Arena in Indianapolis. Elvis Presley would be dead 6 weeks later. Finally, this week in 2016, a lock of David Bowie's hair sold at auction for around 19 grand. It came from a former employee of Wax Museum Madame Tussauds in London. She had used the same hair to recreate David Bowie's 1983 hairdo, and she was told, yeah, you can keep that.
She was able to take a sample, and she was such a massive David Bowie fan that she kept the lock of hair and was allowed to keep it. And she kept it from 1983 all the way up to now. She consigned it into the auction. We're expecting anything from $2,000 for it, and it ended up going for $18,750, which is an amazing price.
And that is a look at This Week in Music History, June 22nd until 26th. My name is Marty Miller. Thank you for time travelling with me. Let's do it again next week.
Zipping through a week in a matter of minutes. This Week in Music History, the podcast.